So we've talked a lot about Chloe Bourgeois over the years on this channel, haven't we? She's probably one of the most talked about characters in the fandom, period. And it all comes down to one major aspect, the concept of redemption and whether it can be achieved. Or whether some people are just doomed to always be a selfish person deep down. And just for a very quick refresher, as I'm sure we all know the story by this point, when she was first introduced to the story way back in season 1, Chloe was the classic mean girl who was largely despised by the class as a whole, but who to the audience was generally a pretty fun character. Snarky, rude, and self-centered, she'd be a central figure driving a lot of the actual accumatizations because she was a spoiled brat who wasn't afraid to threaten the use of her daddy to get her way. She's presented as the nemesis of Marinette and the rival for Adrian's attention. And honestly, since Hawkmoth was far more mysterious in those early days of the show, it was clear that she was the overall main antagonist of the first season based on her actions and screen time. But like I said, she became popular. Her sass, her zingers were funny. Seriously, her season 1 dialogue is top tier. And honestly, she continues to go hard in season 2 as well. And so over time, she became a fan favorite. And in my eyes, it felt like it was very much by design. As during season 2, they really started to dive into her trauma surrounding her mum and abandoning her family, as well as seeing her try to be better, even if it was for largely selfish reasons, such as wanting Adrian to be friends with her again, or for her to earn Ladybug's approval. Hell, they even give her the Be Miraculous and make her a hero, and she's part of that hype final battle at the end of season 2. That was a massive moment, and so you have this idea that she's being built up to fill this anti-hero slot in the team. She's never going to be the classic white meat hero. She's too self-centered and casually cruel for that to work. And it would neuter her character arc and her personality to play out that way. But people were thinking that she was going to be the ally that has a shit personality and is mega selfish, but ends up doing the right thing in the end. Asterix didn't get that memo, it seems, and she got hit with the villain bat by the end of season 3, betraying the heroes and joining Hawkmoth and Mayura during Miracle Queen, and then they just doubled down on all that during season 4 and season 5, to the point that her own father, the Enabler, disowned her, took in her half-sister instead, and sent her off to live with her mum, who seems to pretty much despise her too, as Audrey just straight up sucks in every way. Woof! And yeah, that went down like a lead balloon, as a lot of folks considered it character assassination, and a waste of a character and a story. Until Adrian got gimped at the end of season 5, I would say that Miracle Queen was by far the most hated finale in the show's run due to what it did to her character. But that being said, is it too late? Will they ever pull things back and change how the character's been written? Give her something more than just showing off what a terrible person she is again and again and again? Well, I would have initially said no chance in hell. No way, no how. Asterix spent years and years raging on Twitter at people who come at him about his writing choices, and the big kahuna of those choices is the Chloe arc. Dude seems to particularly dislike this character, odd for the creator to be honest, and the takeaway is that in the world of the show, she is irredeemable. She's an example of somebody raised wrong and who can never ever change, and so based off of all of that, I'd say, nah, there's absolutely zero chance of her getting any sort of redemption whatsoever. I mean, at the end of season 5, you have her alone on her private jet looking so sad and lonely, but based on his words, I think he felt like this was meant to be catharsis for the audience, and himself, a just punishment, rather than just being sad and tragic. And this would have been my perspective for the rest of time, but then I saw a post on Reddit from somebody who'd noticed they'd changed up Chloe's biography blurb on the official website. So shout out to you, Cobalt Spirit. So yeah, long story short, her old bio was far less reconciliatory to her character, very much felt like an asterisk tweet. The old one goes out of its way to paint her in the worst possible light, telling you that her two favourite hobbies are bullying Marinette specifically, and that she's a brat, and that she'll always be a brat. A very heavy-handed response, and one that feels straight out of the keyboard of old mate Thomas. But then recently, it was replaced with this, which is far more in-depth and recognises the nuance of her character, and here it is. Chloe Bourgeois, better known as Queen Bee when she dons the Miraculous of the Bee, is a character wrapped in complexity and contradiction. As the daughter of the Mayor of Paris and a famous but distant fashion journalist, Chloe has grown up in a world where her every whim is indulged. This pampered lifestyle has shaped her into a person who thrives on attention and unfortunately often results to bullying her classmate, Marinette Dupain-Cheng, and playing cruel tricks on others with the aid of her underling, Sabrina. As Queen Bee, Chloe embraces a persona that reflects both her desire for recognition and her underlying insecurities. Her transformation grants her the power to command, suited to her bold and demanding personality. However, her approach to heroism is tainted by her primary motive, the desire to stand out and be admired, even if it means bending the rules or overshadowing others who are genuinely trying to do good. Chloe's costume as Queen Bee is as flashy and attention-grabbing as her personality, adorned with yellow and black stripes that symbolize both the bee's natural coloring and the caution associated with its sting. Her actions as a superhero often mirror her life as a civilian. She's driven by a deep-seated need to be recognized and validated, a need that often leads her to make questionable decisions in the heat of the moment. Despite her flaws, Chloe's character is not without potential for growth. Her journey as Queen Bee occasionally reveals glimpses of a better side, moments where her courage and determination shine through the spoiled facade. These instances suggest that beneath her bratty exterior lies the capacity for change, should she choose to embrace it. Overall, Chloe as Queen Bee is a paradox. A hero who struggles with her own villainous tendencies. Her story is a reflection of the impact of upbringing and environment on one's character, highlighting the complex interplay between nature and nurture in shaping a person's moral compass. Whether or not Chloe can truly overcome her deeper flaws remains a central theme in her development, offering a viewers a character that is as frustrating as she is fascinating. And so this got me a wee bit curious. What's going on here? Am I coping with this? Honest answer, probably yes, I am probably coping. I'm guessing they just wanted a more nuanced presentation of the character because they think it adds depth to the way they've written her, tying it back into that overall theme of striving to be better, only to end up falling short in the end and making things worse than they were before. But that being said, who really knows? Maybe they are going to go down a redemption angle. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more I'm convincing myself that they will. And that is a very dangerous game, and one that feels tailor-made to getting myself disappointed come season 6. Why do I do this to myself? But that being said, I'm going to keep coping. Because life is more fun that way, trust me, until it isn't. Which in turn begs the question, what type of redemption arc are we dealing with here? How are they going to make this into a reality? I think in terms of the show, it does kind of feel like an unrealistic prospect at this point. Throughout seasons 4 and 5, they really doubled down on just how much she sucks. Like when she pretty much tries to pull off a coup and take control of Paris for herself. And even went back to retroactively make her even worse, that's right, even worse than what she appeared to be, by showing us that in the past, before season 1, she'd also done some pretty awful stuff. Stuff that was conveniently never referenced at all until that point, adding in things like her prank with Kim to make Marinette look like an idiot. They even frame her dad, who raised her, and thus is the major contributor to her poor behaviours, as some sort of hero. I mean, he raised her, destroyed her, straight up disowned her afterwards, and then sent her off with her terrible mother, who he knows is abusive. And like I mentioned earlier, this is framed as a big moment for Andre, a big hero section, and the culmination of his character development that he'd been getting here and there since Zoe was introduced. But that being said, we are coping. And so whilst I acknowledge, there's a good chance that this is just BS, I also think there's some hope. The realization at the end of season 5 seemed to be setting in for Chloe, that she'd gotten played and she'd ruined her own life. I mean, I'm still not 100% confident, but I think it is possible in the confines of the show. But where I do think she's definitely going to get her redemption is in the films. I think it's clear that the idea for Miraculous is that ZAG wants a film franchise that's running alongside the actual show franchise. More money, more exposure. It can be used to give an alternate view of the story. I mean, look at what happened with Gabe in the first movie. The dude was a far softer character. He's gentler, he's kinder. He's kind of like what I would presume Betterfly would have been if he was still a villain before he reformed, he didn't die, and Adrian found out, and also just the world was nicer. And on top of that, the hero identities got revealed, so I feel like this is ZAG's asterisk-free toy box, where he gets to play with all the characters and the storylines without any input. And so I'm kind of thinking that the dynamic that Chloe has with the other characters is going to play out very similarly to how people expected it to go with her in the show, where slowly over time you reveal the inner layers of her character. I feel like the movies, if they ever get to that point, they're going to follow that blurb a lot more closely. They're going to show her as a person who has great capacity for both good and bad, but is constantly struggling with this lack of validation from her mother, which in turn manifests into selfishness and cruelty. And I think this could be a rather compelling story arc in that context, where she has to grow past it and accept her mum sucks and she can be better, which is a much better lesson to young girls than, if you suck as a result of neglect and abuse at age 14, then there's no hope for you already. Ha 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 ha. You get what I'm saying? So I think if you're heavily invested in a heroic turn for Chloe's character, which more adequately portrays the nuance and depth they were setting up in season 2, the movies I think are going to be what you need. So pray they do well and don't get cancelled, I suppose, because, well, I'd hesitate to call it a sure thing, as that would be cringe if I was majorly wrong, but screw it. I think that is a sure thing. But now we're moving on from my secret stash of copium and moving on to some industrial grade hopium, and that is that with this change in blurb, maybe, just maybe, we're going to get some Chloe development that is a bit more nuanced and interesting than just, and then she got worse. Nobody wants that. I mean, I've heard they're apparently already bringing her back in season 6. So are they going to do the exact same song and dance, where she sucks and everyone's like, you suck, and they point and laugh? Ugh, I hope not. That's tired. Time to move on. What would be a pretty interesting arc is her returning, realizing that she screwed herself over, and slowly reforming from rock bottom and trying to regain some trust and friendship. It would make the arc feel more complete and really delve into those big themes surrounding her character. Make the best out of a bad situation, so to speak. I think it would no longer make any narrative sense for her to be ever part of the hero team at this stage. I think that ship has sailed, and Zoe seemingly was created to replace her in that team. To be nice Chloe. I mean, she even has the majority of the same arcs. She's close with Andre, she's distant with Audrey, and Marinette is the big focus of her story. Instead of hate, she feels love. So she's pretty much alternate universe, happy Chloe. Are we sure Zoe didn't fall out of a time warp from Shadybug's universe where everyone seems to be the opposite of their personality? So yeah, I think with nuanced writing, you could do a very balanced, maybe not redemption arc, but an atonement arc, where she deals with her feelings of inferiority and abandonment, whilst realizing she did not help herself either by being a toxic person overall. And from here, you can re-establish some of those bonds with her dad, with her sister, with Sabrina and Adrian, her friends. And whilst it would be very silly and out of character for her to be buddy-buddies with the others like Marinette and Alia, I think a tentative peace and an agreement to just, not interact much would be a good narrative stopping point for the character. At the start, I said I did not want to get swept away by my hope. Shit, I can't help myself. Here we are, I'm all in. Let's see if they break my heart. And so yeah, not really much else to say beyond that, and so I'll just remind you these have all been my opinions, and I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of this potential Chloe redemption? You with me? Are you on the hopium, the copium, or are you just shaking your head at these delusional fools? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.